When people think of roller coasters, they typically think of them as one whole ride, complete with all the elements of the ride. However, today we're going to be doing a ranking that looks at only one element of each coaster at Cedar Point, that element being the first drop. We're going to count down all of Cedar Point's coasters and look at which has the best first drop. Let's get right into the ranking. Just a quick note, this video won't be ranking Wilderness Run, Woodstock Express, Wild Mouse, or Cedar Creek Mine Ride, as those are kids' rides without too much of a big drop. At number 12 at the bottom of the list, we have the first drop of Iron Dragon. This drop is very shallow and small, and it's not a very fun or exciting experience. When we rode it, we were in the back and still didn't experience any major airtime or forces, which is why this coaster is at the bottom of the list. Coming in at number 11 is Corkscrew, the park's small aero looper. This also is a quite shallow and small drop, and while it doesn't have a lot of horses, the airtime hill right after is pretty good, which gives it the edge over Iron Dragon in my opinion. While this drop is small, it does have a little bit of airtime at the beginning, which is better if you're in the back rows, which is why I put it above Iron Dragon. Coming in at number 10, we have the park's only wooden coaster, Blue Streak. Blue Streak is actually a very fun and underrated ride with some underrated airtime in my opinion. However, the first drop does not have that much airtime as it's mostly straight, although if you're in the back, it does have a pretty nice pop at the beginning. This ride is very underrated, and the first drop has some good airtime on it, which is why it's at number 10 on the list. At number 9, we have the park's giant racing aero mine train, Gemini. This airtime is some of the jankiest airtime you will ever experience, as it seems like you get some floater airtime and then ejector airtime down the drop if you're in the back. This ride actually has some good airtime, which is pretty fun, especially with the weird aero janky profiling that makes for a very good time on this ride, which is why it's at number 9 on the list. Coming in at number 8 is the B&M invert Raptor. Some would call this a curved drop, but I don't think it is, as it's more of a turn into a straight drop that gives some actual decent airtime. It does have some airtime, and the loop after it is very intense, meaning that this first drop is very good, but it's the worst of the B&M first drops just because of how small it is, and the airtime that it gives could be more pronounced. However, it's still a very fun experience for an invert drop. Coming in at number 7, we have another aero, the park's Aero Hyper Magnum XL 200. This drop is fairly disappointing for how large it is. There's not a lot of airtime on it, and compared to other 200-foot drops like those on Diamondback at Kings Island, it's not very good and doesn't have too much airtime on it. There is a little airtime in the back, but this is one of the most underwhelming moments on Magnum XL 200. Coming in at number 6 is the park's B&M floorless coaster, Rougarou. Rougarou was originally a stand-up coaster, and for that reason, the drop is a little weirdly profiled. However, it does have some very good floater airtime all the way down, and it's, in my opinion, one of the only good parts of this ride, which pretty much after their first vertical loop is very rough and not an enjoyable ride. However, since the first drop is good, it managed to get into the top half of the ranking this video. Kicking off the top 5 is the park's B&M dive coaster, Val Raven. This drop is a 90-degree vertical 200-foot drop that has some great airtime all the way down and starts with an interesting holding brake right at the top that, if you're in the front row, teeters you facing straight down and then drops you down the monstrous drop that has great ejector airtime and is one of the best drops at Cedar Point, which is why it's so high on the list. A lot of people like to hate on dive coasters as one-trick ponies, but the one trick that it does very well, and this drop rides incredibly well. Number 4 is the park's B&M wing coaster, Gatekeeper. This drop is a wing-over dive drop, which means it starts by rolling 180 degrees before dropping down 150-foot drop. This drop is very interesting depending on where you're sitting in the train. If you're sitting in the front, it offers some of the best hang time on any coaster, and if you're sitting in the back, the whip it offers is incredible. Because this drop is so interestingly profiled and can give a variety of forces, I put it at number 4 on the list as one of the best drops at Cedar Point. And now, starting off the top 3, with 3 drops that are among the best drops in the world, is Steel Vengeance's first drop. This is a 200-foot tall drop that drops you at 90 degrees straight down facing the ground. This drop is ejector airtime all the way down until you hit the pullout. It's incredible, and it's definitely one of the best drops I've ever experienced. I didn't put it ahead of the top 2 just because it's over so quickly, but the drop that you do have is one of the most incredible drops ever. Our number 2 drop at Cedar Point is the drop on Millennium Force. This is a 300-foot tall drop that's the tallest drop at Cedar Point, and man does it deliver. It has airtime all the way down that feels like it lasts forever, and it's just one of the best drops on any Giga coaster or any coaster for that matter. However, I didn't put it ahead of number 1 because the airtime is mostly floater airtime and the drop doesn't go fully vertical, but for how long the drop lasts, it definitely deserves to be number 2. And finally, the moment you've all been waiting for, the number 1 drop at Cedar Point is the first drop of Maverick. This coaster starts with a launch lift hill that catapults you into an insane beyond vertical drop that has the most insane ejector airtime I've ever experienced on a drop. This drop has to be the best drop I've ever experienced on any coaster because it's just so insane. It is over quickly, but the airtime that you get feels like you're going to be launched right into the lake in front of you. It's truly an insane moment on any coaster, and that's why it's the best drop at Cedar Point. Thanks guys for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like, and that helped me out quite a bit with the YouTube algorithm. Subscribe if you enjoyed the video for great coaster content just like this, and leave a comment about your favorite drop at Cedar Point. As always, thanks for watching. ZZ Coasters, signing off.